I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good night, Mike Sedam. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful night?
Doing very well. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm a bit, I'm wondering, we're about to go into crucial talks here, so I'm wondering.
It's just a title.
Love it. Well, before I let the cat out of the bag, what part of the world are you in right now, Mike?
I'm in Roseville, California, so I'm about 35 minutes northeast of Sacramento.
All right. And which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this time?
Well, it's really our shared interest of podcasting. And after listening to a few of your episodes, I think we also have an interest in human behavior.
Yes, sir. We definitely do. Now, tell us the name of your podcast, which will explain things a lot more, and tell us about what you do there, please.
Okay, well, my podcast is called the Crucial Talks Podcast, and it focuses on human behavior in leadership, safety, and communication. So really, since I was a new podcaster, I reached out to a few experienced podcasters to see how they do it, and you just happen to be one of the first ones I contacted. Kind of seems to me that everyone is a little bit different, so I think I learn a lot from diversity. So the more I reach out to people and see how they're doing things, the more I learn.
Yeah, I think it's so important. Well, I'm glad that you reached out, and I would have reached out at the same time too, right? Somewhere we would have crossed paths, which is pretty intriguing. So, who did you learn the skill of the crucial conversation, the crucial talks from?
Well, I am definitely still learning. So I'm a one-man show, and I had zero experience in podcasting, but I do teach and speak on the same topic, so that helped me quite a bit. The entire premise of everything I do for writing, for speaking, and now the podcast is all about human behavior. So what I did was I basically blended everything I had learned about public administration and terrorism analysis into what I use now in the Crucial Talks podcast.
How has that impacted your life, integrating what you've learned with the podcast?
Well, it's making a little bit of an impact now because I have a full-time job, a career, and then I do all of the crucial talks kind of on the periphery, but it's really where my interest lies. It's all about human behavior, and I think that a lot of what we do is system-based, and it's all human-based systems. So I take this positive approach to how do we manage that? How do we manage these systems and develop capacity through human behavior?
Now, where's the best place for someone to connect with you, Mike, and what you're doing?
Well, they can go to crucialtalks.com, and there's a way to reach out to me there. My email is on there. My LinkedIn account, Twitter, Facebook is all in there. So if they go to crucialtalks.com, they can find me, and also a link to my podcast.
What's one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years?
Well, quite interestingly, it's reading and writing. A few months ago, I finished the rough draft of a book on identity-based leadership communication, and it's currently at my publisher for editing and illustrating. And the bigger part, though, is reading. I really try to read as much as I can. And it's kind of how I learn from other people.
Yeah, how does that make you feel?
Well, quite honestly, I love learning from others. For example, I didn't know anything about social identity until I started reading about how to use it as a terrorism analysis tool. And then I saw how identities that we adopt and groups we belong to drive our behavior and our decision making. So that's just one example of everything I learned from books. And I try to read as much as I can. I really enjoy reading just because it allows us to learn at the pace we want. We can go quickly through the stuff we already know, and we can slow down for the stuff we need to dive a little deeper into.
That's pretty amazing. So what do you think in terms of all right, so let's say you analyze someone based on your training, and do you have a point where you are checking to see if what my analysis is, if it's accurate with the thing I think it is?
Well, the whole thing about analysis based on identity is you're trying to get a better idea of what is driving behavior. because I think you probably heard that decision making is emotional.
Yeah.
Well, my belief is those emotions and what we feel is the right thing to do is driven by the roles that we adopt and the groups that we choose to belong to. So, for instance, I'm talking to you, and how you're acting toward me is your role as a podcast host. You know the questions to ask, and you know how to lead the conversation, and you know how to interact. But if we were, say I was coming to your house for dinner, the conversation would be much different because you're playing a different role. So when I'm talking about using identity to analyze and develop some tools to use for human behavior, it's really all about, hey, what behaviors belong to that identity that a person has adopted? And we have multiple identities that we play throughout the day. And these things kind of drive what we do in our lives.
Wow, what a huge conversation. So have you ever tested it where you purposefully change roles to see what is the reaction of the individual?
Yes, yes and no. So I have been wrong before. Obviously, I'm a human being, so we've all been wrong before. And sure. I've attempted to use things before and actually created, instead of bringing somebody into my group, I've actually created an out group, which causes conflict, because
Right.
in-group, out-group relationships, that's where conflict lies, when expectations aren't met, when people believe you're against them and not with them. And those things, through communication, you got to be careful of that, because once you create an out group, those people no longer want to work with you, or they don't want to talk to you, or they think you're against them. And so there's a lot of value to understanding how identity plays a part in human behavior. And that's just one of those areas where if you start looking at it, you'll see identity everywhere. You'll see it in movies. You'll see it when you go out to dinner. You'll see it everywhere. And you'll be able to start picking out the roles people play and how that makes them behave.
One more big question, because I'm intrigued by this topic, as you can well understand. How do you see it in nature?
Well, that's another interesting thing. So one of the things I consider myself is a thought anthropologist as opposed to a thought leader. So there are many social species out there, whales and apes and bees and all these things in nature that are social animals. Now, the interesting thing about human beings, and this is where my theories and my beliefs lie, is the fact that humans are not only social animals, but we're the only social animal that can fabricate reality with other human beings. That's why storytelling is so powerful. That's why the conversations you have with people, the most popular ones are probably the ones where people can get inside the head of the person you're talking to, because as the social animal that is able to tell stories, human beings have this ability to put themselves in the shoes of somebody else. And that's where identity becomes important, because, you know, a bee is going to play the role a bee is supposed to play in its society. But a human being, because of the fact that we can socially construct our own realities, we're able to move from identity to identity as the context of the situation dictates we need to change behavior.
Wow.
And so it's a very interesting field to think about, even in safety or leadership or economics, marketing. It's basically a way to try to understand why humans do what we do.
Well, my friend, 12 minutes by 10 times 10x is definitely where you would be next when I do start that role of conversations, right? I definitely love what you're doing. Definitely look forward to that in-depth conversation. Well, amazing audience, we are live with Mike Sedam. Again, he is the podcast host of the Crucial Talks podcast, right? Did I get that right? Did I get that full name right? 1 second. Understand what drives people, Crucial Talks, right? And you can check him out at crucialtalks.com. Well, Mike, let's switch gears for a moment now, and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Mike, what is your earliest childhood memory?
Well, I think the fact that you started talking about waves and water may have just created my memory, because I remember riding in the back of a truck on a Navy base in Guam to go trick-or-treating on Halloween.
Wow.
I don't know why I just thought of that, but I was about 4 years old at the time, but it may have been the fact that you talked about waves.
Yeah. So you were 4. Now that you're thinking about that memory, why do you think it's so clear? And how do you see that connecting to who you are now?
Wow. Well, I know it was because I was with my family, with my dad, with my mom, my sister, and I know that a lot of things I talk about are social systems, and I think our minds are kind of like that, where you have this broader view, and memory is a lot like that, where it's grabbing different parts of information from your brain. And I just think the context that you put it into of a tropical place, it's kind of like a holiday right now. I was riding in the back of the truck. I was with my family. All these things just all of a sudden came together in that memory.
That's
I'm
amazing.
not sure why it's so clear. It just came to me.
Now, the truck, is it that you're in the back passenger seats or in the back, like the tree of the van?
Actually, the very back where you would load wood or whatever.
Yeah,
Back
that's
when you
amazing.
could do that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. Well, can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love the idea of what occurs while being in the back of a van. It's as though everything that is surrounding you it's given the opportunity to stick, if it can stick, and to see how you are integrating with how people interact, understanding that the things that stick are the things that are meant to stick metaphorically. It's just fascinating to see the support system where you are outside in that atmosphere, but yet you are still connected to those inside, and at the same moment you're learning and assimilating, if you would, more information to understand your surroundings. Does that make sense?
It does. Absolutely think that's an interesting perspective, and the fact that there is emotion tied to it made it stick even more, because I truly believe that emotional decision making where we need to go as people, just to understand that decisions we make aren't based on rationality, but it's based on how we feel.
Yeah, I could see you just. I'm not sure if your hair was long, but it's just something's blowing in the wind, right, at the back of the van, right?
I think it was the plastic Halloween costume I had back then.
Yeah, which is amazing. All right, my friend, if we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
Ooh, okay. So that one, that would be 1986, and it'd have to be off the Top Gun soundtrack. Believe it or not, but that movie, Top Gun, actually changed the path of my life, because I figured out what a fighter pilot had to accomplish in school, and I actually started doing a lot better in school after watching that movie.
Wow. So
I'll have to stick with Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins.
And there we go. There's the wind again, right? Even I'm seeing like the when Top Gun starts, and he's in the helicopter, and you're seeing the breeze blowing him, and I'm hearing the music now.
That's right.
Wow, amazing. Well, Mike, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form, so it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready, Mike?
I am ready.
Mike, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Absolutely. Going to have to be my son.
Are you married?
I am married.
Do you have other children than your son?
Just one son.
Do you believe in God?
I do.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
I do that too.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
I do not.
How about 3 hours a week?
Probably 3 hours a week, but I'm usually doing something at the same time, usually working on my computer.
And what about screen time? That computer, the phone and/or the computer, is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
Oh, it's got to be more. My day job is behind a computer, and of course, writing, podcasting, and speaking all requires use of computers. So it's got to be more.
Mike, if you had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents who you are, what would you say that is?
I'll have to use a catchphrase from my podcast, and that is, if we want to understand behavior, we need to understand what drives people.
Love it. Mike Sedam, this was a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
No, I just thank them for listening, and thank you for the time. If they could reach out to me, that'd be great, because I'm really trying to build this community of practitioners that care about having a positive impact on other people.
Love it. Mike Sedam, thank you, my friend, for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.